We have a lot to get through, so I'm going to get going. And as you could see, name of this webinar, to reiterate for everybody, is Red Flags, Green Flags, How to Spot and Fix Bad Money Advice Online. Um, okay, hold on a second. I just saw another note come in. Hold on one second. Hang on. Any technical issues here? No, I don't think so. Okay. So basically, I put this together because I'm chronically online, as many of us are. And, I watch other people who give financial advice partly for my own education just to see what's going on out there. But as I watched more and more, I started to get crazy about the dumb things I heard coming out of people's mouths that were just really ill-informed or decontextualized, much like news or anything else that we're consuming. This is a new age where we're really having to learn about how to discern information and ingest it in a whole new way, right? And that is super challenging, super challenging. I'm still learning. I'm still getting more online media literacy. I have my daughter correcting me all the time, saying, no, don't, that's fake. So it's really hard. And when you're dealing with your financial life, I think it can be really scary for people to see something online and think, my gosh, am I missing something? Am I doing something wrong? Maybe I should listen to this person. So the purpose of today is sort of like, this is a burning desire I've had to just be able to help you understand how to filter out what is BS and what isn't. I think that's really, really important. And in the meantime, people can send questions. What I'm going to do, the format for today is I'm going to go through the list first, which is a link that I'll put into the chat towards the end, and everybody will get a copy of my checklist that I've created to help you filter. And then we're going to go through a lot of case studies, examples of people I just love beating on because they're just saying terrible, useless, unhelpful things online, so that when you see these people, you can think, maybe I should go against the checklist and run a screen. And then at that point, if there's time for Q&A, I would love to do that. And we'll go from there. And of course, at the end, if there's any further questions and we haven't had time to get to what you may want to know, you could schedule an appointment either through our site. You can put your name in the chat, whatever you want to do, and we can have a structured, sane conversation about some of the wacky things you may be seeing online or just questions you may have about your own situation. So with that, we're at 5 minutes after. Perfect. Okay. So let me get started first by showing you the list. Hold on. So the hardest thing for me in this whole endeavor today is just figuring out what screen I'm on. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. Share. Okay. You should be able to see the bad money checklist. So these are the 5 flags that I'm going to suggest that anybody who is looking at financial advice content online uses as a screener to understand exactly what it is that they're looking at and whether or not it has relevancy. So the first thing, one size fits all. Excuse me, I got a frog in the throat. One size fits all. Basically, the problem with that is it's like saying everybody has the same size jeans, right? It's obviously not going to work. So anytime you see something where someone says, everybody should be doing this, red flag, red flag, red flag. Second one, urgency. Got to do this right now. I mean, the first case study I'm going to show you, they do exactly that. And there's lots of reasons why that's bad. Spoiler alert, market's been around for 200 years. You're fine if you don't do something today. Number 3, no mention of risk or taxes. If the IRS and volatility do not make a cameo, it's not advice. It's a fairy tale, okay? Then number 4, secret formula or a guaranteed win. It's sort of like, are we at Hogwarts? Are we waving a magic wand, or is this reality? So if it feels like Hogwarts, it feels like real woo, it feels a little magical, it belongs in fiction. It should stay there, okay? And then the last one is the one that makes me really crazy. It's the guru thing. It's the recruitment vibes. It's the follow me and you'll have this, boss car, this lifestyle, and I travel all the time and I have all this freedom and I only work 10 hours a week. And really what you're buying is the flex. You're buying, that's the product, what you're seeing, what their life looks like or what they're showing you it looks like, whether or not that's true. I'm going to get to that. So if the guru's abs, the car, or the course are the product, you're actually just the customer. That's it. You're not getting great advice, period. I'm just telling you, period. So I see that a lot. So again, the rule is If you see two of these flags, close the wallet. Just just close the wallet. The end. Do not entertain anything like that. Okay, I see a great question. Is opening Airbnb rentals really a decent way? All right, I'm going to hold on that question. Oh, I got opinions. Okay, so now let's go to, I'm not going to go through this really long because you're going to get the sheet. These are the different kinds of questions I would ask as a green flag situation. If you see these things in place, then maybe it's, something to be taken more seriously. Okay. So again, you could see my little mnemonic there, isn't that cute talisman? But more importantly, these are the kinds of things you're going to want to look for when you see financial advice online. So with that, let me get off of this and I'm going to go to the presentation. Okay. That part's done. All right. Share. Thank you for your patience while I do this. Okay. So I'm going to go through a couple of repeat offenders. I pick on these people all the time. Maybe if some of you watch my social media, you'll know this about me that I go after this one all the time. Okay, Susie Orman. You may be familiar with Susie. Most of us are. Look, I bought the book. I watched her on PBS. I sent my mom the book. I don't necessarily think that everything she says is terrible, but she's out there turning a buck. And basically, her big thing is she gets very hot under the collar to generate click throughs, and she's so definitive. Okay. But here's the pitch: the converting to Roth now before it's too late. Well, first of all, you don't have to do anything before the end of the year, right? You could decide on December 31st if you're going to do any Roth conversions. So that is the red flag urgency thing. Red flag number one. Okay, second thing is I am Roth crazy. Everybody should do Roths. That's one size fits all. That's red flag number two. And I'm not seeing any tax context at all in this. Zero. Doesn't talk about that at all. Red flag number three. Hear the sound of your wallet closing? Because you're not paying any attention to this. The reality check is that Roth conversions are a tax timing lever. Sometimes they're brilliant. You pay tax now at a low bracket, skip higher taxes later. You can defer on having to take the money out ad infinitum because it's not something you're going to be forced to take out as an RMD. Maybe you could leave money to your kids in a better way, something like that. But sometimes they're a disaster. You shove yourself in a higher bracket. If you're near retirement or at retirement, you're tripping Medicare IRMA penalties. Sometimes if you raise your earned income level too high, or you blow up, your ACA subsidy or what have you. There's a lot of issues with Roth conversions that have to be looked at very closely based on your specific tax situation and your earning situation. So if you want the green flag version of this, you do it like an adult. You map out multi-year bracket filling kind of plan. You convert just enough to stay in your lane. You watch your thresholds. You revisit as laws change, so on and so forth. Blanket advice like this, all kinds of red flags. I don't care how much she was on public television. This is just wrong. So red flagorama for my friend Susie here. Sorry. So that's case study number one. Okay, the next one. Oh, God. Well, actually, no. This is actually a green flag. This guy is actually a financial advisor in reality. And he gives reasons not to convert to a Roth, but he says reasons. He doesn't say nobody should convert. He doesn't say do it now. I don't see any real red flags with this. He's just giving data. He's like, look, this may not be advisable. And there's so much out there now about Roth conversion. And I did a social media piece a while back that talks about this, where I always say whenever you're trying to do a tax scheme, something that's going to avoid taxes, legally, of course, there's always hair on it. There's always hair on it, okay? So this guy makes the point there could be cases where maybe you shouldn't do that. So I like that. I like a healthy dose of skepticism. He's not ruling it out, but he's giving an example of better advice because he's saying, okay, let's explore this further. Green flag. So he is, by contrast, I would say, a better example of online advice. And like I said, by the way, he is a financial advisor where Susie Orman was at one point a stockbroker, and now she's a bookseller and a course seller or whatever else she's selling, online, advertising and what have you. She's not a financial advisor active in the space. That's something also as a big caveat to all of this. I'm always really skeptical when I watch people give financial advice online who are not active financial advisors who do not work in real time with real clients in real situations. Big red flag for me personally. That's neither here nor there. So, next one. Okay. Now, I'm just going to say right up front, I dig guys with beards. I married a guy with a beard. He's cute. Okay. But covered calls easy money. Okay. This is the way to make easy money. Oh, really? Big red flag there. That's a big one. Here's the thing with covered calls. Covered calls are options. Covered calls are something you sell and you make a little bit of a premium on. Basically, what you do is you're capping your upside and you don't protect against a big drop in stock price. So you're literally giving away your best case scenario for a little check. So if you're in the accumulation phase of your life, is this worth your time? Or maybe you're retired, want to do it on the side. Okay, maybe, but covered calls are not free money. Like I said, you're capping your upside and you're keeping the full downside. There's something called puts. That's a different kind of option that protects you on the downside. Either way, the problem with covered calls is they also generate realized short-term capital gains, which is bad from a tax perspective compared to buying and holding. So it's really not an awesome strategy for someone in their high earning years or in the accumulation phase, but it can be, supplement if you're like a day trader type and want to futz around and you're unemployed and have nothing better to do but buff your nails, or you're retired. Yeah, sure, I guess. Okay, but you don't need this guy to learn how to do that. And it's also worth noting that historically, buy and hold outperforms cover call. So they're best used with some sense of timing to get ahead, but it's very hard to predict tops. It's very hard to do that. People who do this well, and I can count on one finger the number of people I know personally that do this well, um, that's all they do. That's all they do is they study this all day. Portfolio managers, people who really actively do this. And I'll tell you, most of the portfolio managers I know and work with are not big call strategy people. I mean, there's certain specific strategies that employ that, but those are experts. These are people doing this all day and night. Bad for the layperson. Bottom line. So if someone's selling you easy money, remember the risk is the product. So let's go see. Let's see what this is really about with our friend here. Okay, hang on. Oh, hi, Caleb. Yeah, that see that beard. I love that beard. But I'm sorry. This is a life-changing hustle for him, not for you. It's life-changing because if you look up here, you can see he's got a whole course he would like to enlist you in so he can tell you how to do this. And this is my personal favorite right here. Do you have $25,000 plus liquid and want to create 1,000 in cash flow in the market monthly? So basically, you already, starting at the gate, you need to have 25K just to start with this guy. Then you're going to pay this guy to learn how to do something that's kind of like not going to be really awesome for most people. So nice beard doesn't prevent a big, big red flag. So Caleb, you go, you get your bag, boy, but I am not recommending you or anything like you to my clients. So that's it. Okay, next. Oh, this one. I'm sorry. Every time I see these guys, I get crazy. This is the real estate bros. There is a cottage industry of people out there who love to tell you how you should buy real estate. And I know a lot of people in my life who love real estate and they get caught up in the romance of it. I have seen more people nearly blow themselves up because of bad real estate decisions than I've seen anything else. I'm serious because there's a lot of risk involved if you don't know what you're doing. And this is not to say that real estate isn't a good holding in a portfolio, but you have to do it right. So in this particular case, the first thing I'm going to say again, like I say here, if you're so successful, why are you pimping this out online? Like, what are you talking to me for? Why aren't you on a boat to, taking a river cruise down the Danube? Why are you wasting your time when you could be bicycling in Namibia, trying to sell this thing to me? So I'm always wondering about that too. It's like, if I had that kind of money and I'm doing so great in real estate, no offense, guys, I'm not going to be talking to you here. I mean, I'll have clients and I think that's awesome, but I do this to educate audiences and yes, out of the goodness of my heart, but it's also obviously a way for people to get to know me so I can help them. Same thing here. So obviously he doesn't have enough money to just go live his life, whatever. Anyway, that's beside the point. So let's talk about specifically what he is saying here. How to buy 10 rental properties in less than 5 years. Sounds great, right? So the premise of this is using 5% down to buy endless homes. Okay. Love the confidence, but here's the grown up version of that. 5% is a primary residence thing. Second homes, investment properties, they start at 10%, and actual investment properties really actually 15% plus with higher rates and lots of fees for the privilege. So, you want to try to game it by calling every house your primary residence, you got a federal fraud problem. Okay, we'll get to that in the next slide. So, this is sort of a fantasy thing where, I wouldn't trust trying to scam a bank about, what kind of property you're purchasing. Use real loan to values, use real reserves, real expenses, and you got to plan for tax bills. I mean, a lot of times people want to buy investment real estate because it's a tax shield. Right. But now you've got liquidity issues. Potentially, you've got carrying costs. You've got to deal with tenants. Again, I'm not saying it's a terrible idea, but there are so many things you can do first to clean up your situation that I would say for most people, most rank and file, this is not necessarily the go-to play. There are much easier ways to begin to build your financial, coffers and strategy and plan for later that doesn't have to involve this immediately. Most of the time people who are attracted to this haven't gotten the basics right. That's also what I find. So real estate only works if your spreadsheet tells the truth. So this is a big red flag for me. Okay, there's an exhibit B of this too. Oh, this guy. Okay. So this is not a thing. Like I said, if you try this, you're either breaking occupancy rules or you're already wealthy enough, right? So if you've got money, money makes money. If you've got enough capital to make sure you've got the reserves in place to cover maintenance, to, make sure that you are, you're making sure the thing is, can be occupied and you're meeting all your inspections and you get extra accounting involved to make sure that, you're doing things right, blah, blah, blah. Then yeah, maybe. Maybe. Call me first. Before you do investment real estate, call me first. So I have a lot of skepticism. As I say here, bandera rojo. This is red flag city, okay? So if you go online and you type how to buy 10 rentals in less than 5 years, you're going to see no less than 24 videos on this. They're selling it hard. That's the other thing. If you're seeing something sold really, really hard, that means somebody's making money on you. That's what that means. It's so popular because there's money to be made. I've got another big example of this later in the presentation. Let me just make sure I see Q&A here. Real estate bros, totally, 100%. Yes, it's 99% of the time it's dudes. No, it's just fact. That's okay. And 99% of the time it's BS. So that notwithstanding, let's go to the next one. Okay. Oh, this one. Okay. My buddy Carlton. He looks good, right? Love the jacket. He's very put together. It's tight, nice shirt. Really love it. I love the outfit. The fit's good. Oh, Carlton. Okay, so here's the thing. His whole shtick is once your business hits 50K in profits, you switch status from an LLC to an S corp. That's a fake rule. That is fake news. Okay, this is one of those everybody should do it things. Red flag. Red flag. The IRS does not have some chart on a cork board that says, hey, congratulations, you crossed 50K. Welcome to S Corp land. By the way, there's also something called C Corp. There's other structures. This may not be right? What they do have is a big, fat, giant spotlight on whether you're paying yourself what is referred to as reasonable compensation. For example, if you're pulling $200,000 in distributions and you're paying yourself 20K in salary, that's not clever. That's an audit waiting to happen. Okay. So you add in payroll software, tax prep fees, state franchise taxes, whatever it is. And this hack starts to look like a very expensive hobby, right? So I'll give you an example. In my own business, we're an LLC. There's lots of reasons we're an LLC. If I'm only making $50,000 in profit, I should just pack it in and go drive an Uber at this point. Okay. So my bottom line to you is that there are many, many reasons for different corporate structures. Any tax advice that you see online, really, you have to consider really carefully. Again, it's very individualized and it's industry dependent and it's circumstance dependent. It's timing dependent. So Carlton gets a big thumbs down. Okay. Welcome to TikTok math class dismissed. He's out of here. So red flag for Carlton Dennis. Like I said, I don't care how slick he looks. This is just bad advice. I see more questions coming. This is exciting. I love seeing questions coming. Oh no, my CPA told me that. So ask your CPA why he told you that. Okay. Is it specifically making sense for you? You have to look at specifically why, in your case, he thinks that or she thinks that. It could be okay for you, but the thing is, you got to ask, you got to go under the hood. What does it cost to file differently? How much is it going to cost? Like, what's it going to save me? Is it because of the employment tax thing? Like, what exactly is it? Have them show you the math. If you do it this way, you're going to save X amount. Or if you do it this way, you may not save this year, but at your rate of growth, it's going to make more sense later. It's going to be worth it for you. So again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it has to be looked at within your personal context. For me right now, Frank and I have been talking for years. Do we go to S Corp? Not S Corp, do we go to C Corp? All these different discussions. We look at it every year. That's the whole point. We look at our numbers every year. Is it worth pulling the trigger? Is it not? Thus far, it hasn't been worth pulling the trigger for a multitude of reasons. But there may come a day where Frank and I say, you know what, we're going to change the corporate structure. The other thing to know too is that sometimes when you change a corporate structure, you can't reverse it. Okay, so that's the thing. You got to really know. So again, I don't want to pick on your CPA, but ask for more information. Don't just, it's like a doctor. It's like you go to the doctor and they give you a diagnosis and they give you some information. Sometimes you want to dig, well, why? Why are you putting me I'm on statins. My doctor loves this idea of doubling me up on my statins. It already had a massive effect. Why would I double my dose? I'm going to be like in a coma if you give me too much statins. Oh, yeah, you're right. It did have a big effect. Right. So sometimes you have to challenge the conventional wisdom and have them look at your situation. I took the smallest dose of statins and I went down 70 points. That's really a lot. So why would you give me more? I'm in the normal zone. Well, we love to give more. Well, that's nice. I don't really feel like having all of my neurons stripped of, lipids. That's a bad idea. So anyway, the point being is that it's so individualized. I know I'm beating this to death, but tax in particular is super dangerous territory. This is where you can go really wrong. So ask your CPA. All right, enough said. Okay, I'm getting texted. Okay. All right, here we go. Next one. No technical issues. That's all I'm worried about here. Oh, Beth. Okay, first of all, this is unflattering, Beth, I don't know the background, whatever. Anyway, I shouldn't talk because I don't have an elaborate background, so I'm not going to pick on Beth's background. But here's the problem with Beth. She's talking about a first lien HELOC. Okay, it's called velocity banking. We see this a lot too. Oh, wait, another question. Let me just make sure. He's old school. I will ask. Thank you. Exactly. Old school means do what I tell you. No, I mean, again, it could be right for you. Good. I'm glad you're going to ask. Perfect. Okay, this one's a little culty. This particular thing is a little culty, which is making it suspect from the jump. This so-called velocity banking trick. I've been seeing it a lot. Here's the pitch. Run your whole paycheck through a special home equity line of credit. That's what a HELOC is. And you'll crush your mortgage years early. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Secret formula. What? Like how, right? Other red flag, no risk talk. I'm not hearing anything about risks. Okay, so now technically, there's a kernel of truth. Okay, HELOCs recast every night, meaning if your paycheck sits there for a few days, the balance is lower and you pay a little less interest. Sounds clever. Here's the problem. Okay, and this is a much more complicated thing than I'm implying right now, but just know that this is problematic. HELOCs are variable rate debt. So when rates go up, as things have happened quite recently for people, so do your payments. There is no free lunch here. It also assumes that you're a monk with your money. The whole system only works if you sweep every paycheck and never overspend, okay? One vacation, one emergency, magic math is gone, okay? There's fees, there's fine print, there's teaser rates, there's balloon payments. That can eat up those little savings. So yeah, the nightly recast can work in your favor, potentially, but only if you live like a robot, okay? And interest rates never move. That's not a plan. That is not a plan. So Alternatively, I would say run the boring numbers. If your HELOC is costing more than your mortgage, it's not velocity, it's just debt. And oftentimes it's Occam's razor. For those of you who don't know, Occam's razor means usually the simplest answer is the correct answer. So oftentimes the simplest move wins, which is making extra principal payments on a fixed mortgage. And then you could speed things up. That would be, I feel, the way to go. So this is highly questionable. You need disposable cash to do it right. You need to make sure you don't screw it up, or it could be a very expensive mistake. It's just high risk, and I don't know why. I don't know why this gets pimped out there, because honestly, most people's discipline is most of the time the problem with people and money. So why would you go to the thing that requires the most discipline ever? Right? That's just, I don't know, doesn't make any sense. So sorry, Beth, as they say in French, drapeau rouge, red flag harama. Okay. Bye, Beth. See ya. Oh, Becker. Okay. So here's the deal. Infinite banking. I've been seeing a lot of this. I've seen a lot of this. I'm going to tell you why. The infinite banking concept is based on indexed universal life insurance, which, as of my last reading, is the most lucrative insurance policy out there in the market right now. It's a money machine. They are printing money with this thing. Again, as I said, if you see stuff all over the place, if you see things getting advertised widely, if you see dozens of people talking about it, that is really when you should be most suspicious. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's true. Somebody's making a buck, okay? You always have to ask yourself that. So what the concept is be your own bank. You may have heard of this. It sounds very powerful, right? It sounds cool, but here's what it really is. It's a secret formula pitch. Red flag, remember secret formula, red flag? One size fits all. Red flag number 2, okay? With the fees edited out. Red flag number 3, and no discussion of risk. Red flag number 4. Like, this is red flagging it. Like, you go through that whole list and it's red flag crazy, okay? So run for the exits. Indexed universal life insurance is a permanent life insurance policy. It has a cash value component that grows based on the performance of a stock market index, okay? It's a form of whole life, and it's fine. Yes, it's a permanent insurance. Whole life is a little different. Whole life insurance is fine. Things like this could be okay when it's used for protection or estate planning or very specific niches, okay? But that's not a wealth hack. It's expensive. It is slow. It is inflexible. It is hard to get out of without a lot of losing of money. Your first decade of premiums mostly go to fees and commissions. That is not magic. That is not magic. That is just math, okay? Borrowing against the policy, not free, because they talk about that. It's a loan. It's often a floating rate loan. I think usually it's a floating rate. And unless you're consistently overfunding this thing and maxing every other tax advantaged account opportunity you have, you're not becoming your own bank. You're just paying a premium for an expensive detour. Okay. There are definitely better ways to, quote, fund yourself for things. And basically, I also think what it does is it encourages spending that you can't afford. Okay. Better would be maximizing your K plan, your IRA, your HSA. Ideally, if you have a K plan that's got a Roth option, love that. That's cool. Okay. If you still want something like this, you need to demand every detail in writing, the costs, the internal rates of return, the whole funding schedule. And then you got to ask yourself, do I need this for a real purpose, or am I buying into some idea? So if the bank is a policy you barely understand, you're not at the table, you're dinner. Okay? This is especially with insurance. I have such issues with insurance products. And I did a social media piece a while back about how insurance, because it is mostly commission based, not wholly, but most of it is commission based, is how, it drives, I think, very problematic behavior. And you need gatekeeping to get the insurance piece right. In other words, I think you're well advised if you're ever working with an insurance broker, unless they're your brother, and even if they are your brother, I still would bring in a third party that has expertise in this area that doesn't have skin in that game. Okay? Flat rate, fine. You want to pay somebody a flat rate or, whatever to help guide you in this. Something like this kind of policy could be really a huge mistake, very expensive. I've seen a lot of bad policies that I've had to try to help clients get out of. And maybe at the time it made sense. Most of the time I can tell you it didn't. Okay. Anytime you're dealing with universal life, whole life, it is very specific. I'm going to break my rules here. I'm not going to say never, but the use cases are complex and specific. Term life for most people at particular stages makes sense. It could make a lot of sense. It's cheap, it's pure insurance. Insurance in general, I would say, is not a savings vehicle. It's not an investment vehicle. There are better ways to save, and there are much cheaper ways to invest. That's it. Period. End of story. So IULs, big thumbs down, 16,000 red flags. If you don't do your homework, I would just like close my laptop. I would take my phone. I would go swipe, put it down, and you're done. That's it. You want to ask me about it? Feel free. And I do work with I do work with insurance brokers who I feel have integrity. That's the other thing too. Let me beat on insurance just a few more minutes. When you seek insurance, I think it is highly, highly advisable to work with brokers who draw from different carriers. They don't just represent Northwestern or AXA or whatever. They have multiple carriers to which they have access and can then look comparatively and help you identify the best product at the best price for your needs. That's really important. So on top of that, a lot of these insurance companies also have an investment component. I cannot tell you the crap plans I've seen come out of, I'm going to use their name, AXA, people in the past that I've worked with who said, oh, I got a financial plan. Well, guess what? It's filled with all kinds of insurance products. Do you know the old saying? If you want to get cut, you go to a surgeon. Okay? That's what's happening in those situations. They will find insurance for every solution for you and your life problems. It should be used judiciously. It is a very important tool. I have great reverence for the right kind of insurance. Okay? I had flood insurance. I got flooded out multiple times. Thank you, flood insurance. But it was for specific use case. So, number one, do not trust brokers who work at one firm. They don't have access to the full suite of products that are out there. Number two, do not use your insurance broker as a way to figure out your financial plan. Okay, that's a big no-no. And number three, if you're seeing popular products like this getting sold really heavily, there is big commissions attached to it. You'd be amazed at the money these people can make on this stuff. And again, I don't deny anybody the right to make a living. That's fine. But it needs to be more transparent and you need to understand what you're really paying for. Okay. I moaned about insurance enough. Where are we at? Oh, 12:36. I got to keep going. Holy mackerel. Okay. I just love picking on insurance. Sorry. Wait till real estate agents. That's another one. Mortgage brokers. I could go on. Oh, God, this guy. I see him a lot. Okay. He comes up a lot and he says things like, hi, I'm a former financial advisor and portfolio manager, and here to tell you why you don't need financial advice except from me. He represents a firm called Facet, which is like, I won't get into Facet right now, but you could get, it's sort of like cheap kind of, just more generalized, quote financial advice. And it's fine. It's not for people who really have any complexity to their life whatsoever. Facet's its own animal. Okay, fine. So anyway, he is getting paid by Facet to tell you you don't need financial advisor and you could just do these things that I tell you. And it's actually so much easier than everybody's making it out to be. No, just no. So anytime I see this guy, it's really funny. I see this guy and I write to Frank. I saw that guy again. I saw Tyler Gardner again. And I send him the clip and we're like pulling our hair out going, oh my God, it's so bad. So in this particular case, okay, never own bonds. Really? Really? So this kills me. Never own bonds in retirement. Absolutism, big red flag. Ding, 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 ding. One size fits all. Second red flag. Ding, 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 ding. And no context. That's another flag. So there's red flags here. The reality is bonds aren't here to make you some vast fortune, okay? Bonds smooth out volatility, and they provide a ballast for equity-based volatility. They give retirees a safe bucket to draw from when the market tanks, and that's how you avoid selling stocks at the world's worst time. That's how you avoid that. And while rising rates do hurt bond prices, that also means better yields going forward, okay? The bonds are dead narrative is just lazy. It's just lazy. So what he does is he purports that you could just put your money aggressively into something and then because of appreciation and total return that you're going to be fine. And that I just think that it's really scary when you're talking to older people who are going to need their income, right? Especially in a market like now. Let's think about what's happening today. So you've got a market at its peak. Things are going great. And then now you've got somebody who's just about to step into retirement, and you're starting to hear things like potential recession, slowdown, people losing jobs, consumer confidence is dropping, blah, blah, blah. This is not the moment to say, yeah, I should just go right into the market and no bonds for me. Really, really, really troubling advice. I'm sorry. It's just troubling advice. And it violates so much of what we know in modern portfolio theory and asset allocation and also consumer behavior, behavioral bias, right? I don't want my older clients panicking and selling out of their stocks at the bottom. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. So I could get more into that at another time. But Tyler, you should know better. You were a financial advisor. You should know better. And he looks kind of young too. So like, I'm not saying you can only talk to older people if you are getting ready to retire, but I am like kind of horrified that somebody would tell retirees something that I feel would be potentially dangerous if their plan can't withstand a big market shock. Some people can. Some people can immunize part of their plan and they can go crazy and go into stock market, but a lot of people can't. So again, very situational dependent, highly problematic. I don't even believe in this philosophically. Goodbye. Goodbye, Tyler. You out of here. Okay. See now. Love her. Okay. Bosch Lab is my queen. Why? Because she's doing the thing that I wish all of these people would do, which is she is raising skepticism like that other guy I talked about in the beginning after Susie Orman. Okay. Multi-level marketing. So case number 7, classic multi-marketing pitch. Start your business for just $99. Join my team and you'll have financial freedom. Recruitment vibes, get rich quick promises, missing earnings data. The reality is that multi-level marketing, most of the time, participants don't really make any money. Here is the use case for multi-level marketing. Spoken as a mom who hung out with my mom friends while my daughter was in school. And what we did is we'd get together and we'd have snacks and wine and we would like buy clothes from the friend who was involved in whatever MLM. And we'd have a few laughs and isn't that great? And then the ugly part would come where she'd say, well, okay, who wants to do the next event? Because if one of us did an event, then she would get clothes discounts. She'd still be paying for the clothes, but she'd be getting some discounts. So then this became this sort of like round robin, like exercise. And really the only merit to it was not even the crappy clothes or the jewelry or the skin products or the lingerie or whatever else this MLM was doing. Think Mary Kay, this kind of thing. It was a socialization exercise. The few people that do well in this, I think, are kind of like they get into the cult mentality of it, right? They really go all in and they're hard sellers, hard sellers, hard sellers. Most people lose money, okay? They lose money by the time you add in product buys, fees, travel, like the cars and vacations you see on Instagram, that's not really how it works, okay? So if you want a side hustle, choose something where money comes from customers buying value, not recruiting, right? Other people to sell stuff. So you also want to ask for earnings disclosure. That's a side they never show you. So if your business model needs your cousin is more than the customer, that's not freedom. It's a funnel. Okay, that's what this is. So I love what she's saying here. She's saying you'll probably lose money. She's not saying definitely. She's saying you're probably going to lose money. Then she goes on to explain and present empirical data. She demonstrates the right degree of skepticism. Solid advice. Okay. Be like Boss Lab. Thank you. Green flag. So I'm super excited to be able to end on a good note with the case studies. So that's it for the case study. So I've got some more comments. What do we got here? 1242. Okay, we got some time. I'm going to have more questions. Awesome. Let's see. I see another thing that came in. Yeah, I have seen him a lot too, but no longer. He says everyone should collect Social Security at 62. It depends. Depends. I've got a case study that I'm working on now, actually. Let's talk about that for a minute. I have a case study that I'm working on right now. When I did the analysis, and you also have to be careful in the analysis software too, because it'll more than not tell you to tell your clients to push it out to 70 to optimize the amount of money you're going to get. That's got its own problems, right? So in this particular case, though, I have these clients who want to stop at 62, want to start taking Social Security. Well, there's a couple of problems. Number one, they don't have the assets to rely on to be able to bridge them to Medicare, right? Because they're going to have lifestyle expenses and then be on the ACA, which is about to get more expensive. And 62 is going to be the Social Security is going to be too low. They're taking a haircut. So the thing about waiting, every year you wait to take Social Security is a guaranteed 8% raise or 8% return on investment, excuse me. So there are cases to be taking it at 62, and there are cases to wait. And there are cases to wait, but maybe not wait till 70. And it has to do with your own personal philosophy on whether the money's going to be there or not, which I can get into if anybody wants to know. I have opinions, I have data. It has to do with longevity. Do your people in your family live a long time? It has to do with how much other assets you have and other forms of income, guaranteed income you have. It's a very complex question as to when to take Social Security. There are no pat answers. There are no pat answers. I'm sorry. I wish there were. To maximize the amount of money, you could take it at 70, but then you got to live long enough to do that, to have the break even, which is usually around 80 years old, late 70s, 80ish, something like that. And I can tell you in my own family, I've had people in my family who made it way past that. And I have people in my family who really would have been ripped off if they hadn't taken it earlier because they died before they were 80. So, there's no way you could predict your lifespan, but you have to make an educated decision because once you turn on that switch, there's no putting it back. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle with Social Security. So that's my unasked for lecture on Social Security. Do I recommend term life? Generally speaking, if you're in the need for insurance, not everybody needs insurance. Okay, I just want to start out by saying not everybody requires insurance. But if so, I try to look to pure insurance first, meaning term, especially for younger people who may not have the cash flows to put away in a whole life anyway, because a lot of times I see people being sold whole life as a way to accumulate for later on. Get term and then save your money another way. But again, every situation is different. I don't want to say 100%. Generally speaking, in most use cases, I see more use for term than I do for whole life, universal life, and other such permanent insurance. That's what I'll say more often. So every situation is different. I've had people who've asked me about insurance and I've said, do you have anybody you need to insure for? You're an auntie, you don't have children, do you want to leave money to somebody? Well, no, I don't really care. Okay, well, then what do you need insurance for? You know what I mean? So that kind of thing. So everybody is different. Everybody is different. Okay, let's see what else. Now, let's get out of this. Okay, then wait, stop share. All right, cool. All right, let me go through more of my spiel here. So let's talk about why we fall for this stuff. Okay, so smart people fall for dumb advice. Okay, nobody out there is an idiot. I mean, I really don't think so. I don't judge anybody who gets advice that then is problematic and they say things to me and I think to myself, oh dear God, I really don't think that because I know what's out there and I understand how appealing and alluring it is. And I understand how scary money can be. And I understand how emotional money can be. And I understand how, God, it would be great if we just had a simple answer. And it's sort of like diet and exercise. It is simple, but it's not easy sometimes. But it works, it does work. So here's why smart people fall for problematic advice. Because algorithms reward certainty, they reward speed, And sales rewards drama and lifestyle flex. Like, look how good it is for me. Good money decisions require context. They require disclosures. They require patience. Three things social media hates, right? So when you see financial advisors like me online who are actually actively working, you see them getting really technical. They dig in the weeds. I'm going to do a 45-minute piece just on showing you charts about Roth conversion, and I admire them. I think they're boring, but I admire them because they're doing the right thing by the public, and they are contextualizing, providing real case use and data. The problem is it's kind of boring. It's not as exciting as going through TikTok and seeing people shoot off their mouth and say, incendiary things, right? So how do you strike the balance? How do my task, I feel, with you and in general with clients is, how do I stay true to what I think is authentically really important and bringing context and patience to a process while not being so boring that people just don't even want to deal. That is the trick. That is the trick. Money respects nuance. Social media does not respect nuance. And we could see many, many examples of this. So don't beat yourself up if you've been tempted. This stuff is designed to short circuit your brain. It really is. Okay. So we talked about what good advice sounds like. Let me go to some Q&A here. Hold on. I've got some questions. Oh, yeah. So, you know what? Somebody's asking me to go through the green flags. Yeah, I'm happy to go through the green flags. Sure, why not? Yeah, let me go back to share. Share. Okay. There's Jennifer Kirby, lightly airbrushed. There I am. Excellent. Okay, green flag filter. Okay, so let's go through them. So Talisman, I know it's a lot to remember, but have this in front of you. And again, everybody will get access to this. And in fact, let me see if I can put in the chat. I don't know if I can put this in the chat to everybody. No, let's see. There's a link to it. That's a direct message. All right, I'm going to have to do this after the fact. I'm not good at that. Okay, so Taylor, this talks to the specificity piece. Is it specific to me? Does this fit my income, my risk, my tax situation, my goals? Does it? If you don't know, you're going to need to figure that out. Assumptions. What is getting baked in? What tax brackets are getting baked in? What expenses are getting baked in? What returns are getting baked in? Anytime you do any sort of analysis or illustration, this is true with insurance, this is true in financial plans, the bake-in is really critical, right? You have to understand the assumptions because you can make anything look good if you play around with assumptions and the assumptions, are designed to tilt you a certain way. I mean, anytime I do a financial plan with a client, we're going in the back end and I show them how the sausage is made. These are the rates of returns that we're using. This is the tax bracket stuff we're doing. We're assuming you're living in a certain state. We're assuming a certain rate of inflation. Here's why we're assuming a certain rate of inflation, so on and so forth. Generally speaking, the stuff you're going to see online is not going to have all that. They're not going to explain all that to you. So important to note that. Liquidity and risk, L. So what can go wrong? How do I get my money out? That's it. Like, how do I get my money out of this? What if this is bad? Like, am I going to get creamed if I try to take my money out? Am I going to lose? Like, what's the risk of how much money I could lose? Is there a floor? Could I lose everything? It's like Vegas. Going into Vegas that you could lose everything, right? And most of the time in investments, the same is true unless you have FDIC insurance. So you have to make an educated guess as to how much risk there really is going on and how much you can stomach. And I can provide guidance on that. A good advisor will help you provide guidance on what you are expressing as your appetite for risk. Incentives. This goes back to the scratchola. Who's getting paid, how they getting paid, how they making money. Always ask yourself that question. I will tell you how I make money. I'm a fiduciary financial advisor. I am fee-based, okay? I do subscription model. I do fee on assets, flat rate. That's what I do, okay? I don't make commissions. So you have to understand how people make their money, and they need to be able to tell you as quickly as I just told you how they make their money. And if it's like a lot of hand wavium, a lot of noise, you can assume there's something scammy about it. That's it. I'm sorry, but that's fact. You should know how people make their money. That's it. Source-based. Can I see the data? Can I see the background? Can I see third-party verified information? Can I see the numbers? Can I see the spreadsheet? Like, you're going to want to see that. That's why when you do insurance, you do have to go through those illustrations. Now, typically in insurance illustrations, they're giving you really optimistic scenarios, but some of the more, I think, thoughtful providers will show you best and worst case, which I like. That's good. So you can know that you have downside risk and what that looks like. I think that's really important. Measurable. So, how do you measure success in these quote products? What is it supposed to look like? So, if I were doing this 5% down and buying investment properties, if I'm following all your directions, am I going to, how quickly am I going to see property? Well, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on the market. It's going to depend on the timing. It's going to depend on your hangnail. It's going to depend, like once you start getting into all these caveats and it's hard to measure, yeah, no, no. It's got to be measurable. You got to understand. You'll know that if you're putting money in a certain investment, that the measurability is over time. I'm going to say to you, 7 to 10 years in an equity investment is your timeline, because most of the time within the 7 to 10 year window, most of the time stocks go up. Now, there are cases and exceptions for the general market, the lost decade after the bubble burst, in 2000, that was a lost decade. People still made money, but S&P struggled, okay? So, but most of the time, you know that over a certain period of time, you are expected to make a certain rate of return within a range. And you constantly re-examine that. That is an expectation. It's not a guarantee, but it is an expectation based on history, right? So I think it's just important to understand what those measurable things are that you could expect to see. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to kind of understand. After tax. So yes, this is a big one. This goes back to my big, long rant about tax, okay? What is your personal real outcome after taxes, not the headlines? Discussion today. Every time I speak to clients, 9 times out of 10, tax comes up, especially now late in the year. Okay, if we were to sell this, what are the implications for you? What did you earn this year? Let's look at what you got in, interest income. Let's look at what kind of interest income. Let's look at the dividends. Were they qualified dividend? Like so on and so forth. That degree of conversation is really important before you start implementing like new ideas. You got to understand what the tax picture is, could look like for you. CPA, very important in this regard. Collaboration with a CPA and a financial advisor, even better. Even better, because we each have our lanes of specialization, and having those two people talk to each other, really, really helpful. Really, really helpful. So after tax implications, very important. So next actions. What can I do this week that's simple and sane? I kind of threw that in there. Less of a flag, but more just something affirming to say, okay, there's always something you can do every week around your financial life that has net positive input. Okay, whether it's reducing an expense, whether it's committing to saving something extra, whether it's paying down high interest debt more quickly. There's always something you can do this week that will advance you. Always. There's always a thing. There's always something. So that's the bad money checklist with the green flags. I hope that that's helpful. I'm of course I'm gonna advertise myself quite clearly. I told you I get paid. Get a professional gut check, schedule a call if you have any questions. And now I'm almost out of time. Let me see if I can quickly get to a question. Hold on, let's see. Ooh, that went fast. Okay. Simple rules about, I'm going to do lightning round. Okay, simple rules about, what are some simple rules to follow when given advice about hot stocks? This is a really quick one, okay? If you found it online, it's not a discovery. It's an exit plan for someone else. That's the advice. Internet serves leftovers. You're not getting the fresh catch. Hot opportunities are already picked clean. If this was truly a hidden gem, would they be blasting it to millions of people? Online hype is the financial version of leftovers. If you're hearing it now, Wall Street's already picked it clean. That's the answer. Tax savings advice in retirement. What's that? Biggest takeaway, lightning round. Uncle Sam is your silent partner. Always hungry, always taking a cut in your pocket. Biggest mistake I see is people think about that when they file, not before. The real moves happen years earlier. How you draw down accounts, when you do Roth conversions or not, but whether you expedite IRA withdrawals or not, how you balance cap gains, and so on. Boring strategies rule the day. That's tax advice in retirement. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Lightning round. Figuring out retirement. That's pretty general. It says the statement says figuring out retirement. Okay. Forget the magic number you saw online. Okay, I see this a lot. You can retire on $1 million. Well, how do you know that, right? This makes me crazy. Everyone has their own number. Right off the bat, I couldn't tell you if 1 million is enough or 2 million or 10 million. It depends on lifestyle. It depends on timing, how long you need it for, and it depends on how much guaranteed income you already have coming in the form of pension, Social Security, and so on. So, step one is knowing what you actually want. I mean, do you want to live in Costa Rica? Do you want endless travel? Do you want to support, you know, bum kids, soaping off of you forever? Like all of these things come with different bills, right? So you need to know that first. And then if you don't know your monthly spend, you don't know your retirement period, end of story. That's it. That's how you know. Then you could back into it. Okay, if I want X, is what I'm doing enough? And you can reverse engineer that. And then either you're going to change X or you're going to change what you're doing or both. That's figuring out retirement. Okay. Um, okay. Let's see. I got time for, okay. How to handle credit card. How to handle credit. Okay. How to handle credit card payoff. Well, I love this. Okay. The only investment in the world with a guaranteed double-digit return, guaranteed, is paying off credit cards. 22% APR, not character building. That is financial arson. It's like setting your wallet on fire, okay? 2 ways to do this. One, see what's it called? It's the avalanche method. That's the one where you do highest interest rate debt to lowest, or you pay the smallest balance to the biggest. It's called the snowball method. Either works, just pick one, stay consistent. The problem with this is the real hack isn't the order in which you pay things off, it's stopping the bleeding. What was it in the first place that got you into credit card debt? And unless you can deal with that, you're just going to keep repeating the problem. And so it's partly behavioral in terms of how you spend, and it's partly behavioral on how you pay it off. So it's 2 things. That's how you handle credit card payoff. Gosh, I'm running out of time. Crypto. Oh my gosh. You know what? Crypto is the world's biggest FOMO situation ever. And, you guys have been watching what's been going on with crypto in the last few days. You don't bet what you can't afford to lose. You don't bet what you can't afford to lose. That's my story on crypto. Some people do great in it. You never hear about the fails. You only hear about the success stories. And with that, we're out of time. And I want to thank everybody for coming today and joining me on my rapid fire, races, through all these different case studies and all these different questions. I really am grateful for you coming and for asking all these questions. And, feel free to contact me with any more questions. If you want to explore anything further. Sorry I didn't get to go deeper into crypto because I love talking about that. And in the meantime, make sure you do your checklist and don't follow dumb advice. So please feel free to reach out anytime. I'm here for you, and it delights me to be able to talk with you here today. And thank you so much for attending. I appreciate it. Take care.